Hey guys, and welcome to a brand new mini manga reviews video. I have 6 manga to review for you guys today. They are from March and April because this video has been super late. It's been pushed back and pushed back again because I've been really bad at being motivated to film YouTube videos recently for a variety of different reasons, but I didn't want to scrap it because there are some interesting manga that I wanted to talk to you guys about in this video with a variety of different ratings. So let's get started. First up is Angels of Death episode 0 volume 1. I gave this one 4 stars out of 5. This is the prequel to the main Angels of Death series, and it is time to get into creepy Dr. Danny's head and his past. We are very briefly in the present before we skip back a few years. While we do see Kathy very briefly in this volume and we get a quick glimpse at a certain gravedigger, this volume mostly focuses on Danny. We see him back when he was working as a prison psychologist, how he came into contact with Kathy, how he teams up with Kathy so that they can carry on their gross little practices, and how he came to meet the priest and join up with the basement project. Plus, you know, there's a creepy cult involved too, and that's all in volume 1. We all know Danny has his little eye obsession, so there is a focus on that. I have to say, it's quite chilling, creepy, and low-key disgusting being inside Danny's brain. 1 out of 10, would not recommend. We do get a lot of insight into his psyche, both from himself and from others though. Shout out to the creepy cult member who gave us some of that insight. Not that, you know, Danny appreciated it. I did think it was interesting to see how he and Kathy became acquainted and how they decided to work together and what their kind of relationship was like before they were in the basement, and I have a feeling I know how Zach's gonna fit in. What's trippy about this though is that at times Kathy and Danny seem pretty normal, like when they're investigating the creepy cult, but then you suddenly get thrown into Danny's brain and his thought process, or Kathy says something and it's like, yikes. However, dare I say, I actually felt a little bit sorry for him briefly. Very briefly. I know, I was shocked and appalled by that development. I did appreciate that there were some parallels to the main story with the whole killing your god thing, but perhaps the biggest bonus of this prequel series is that we get to know some more about Father Grey, and more importantly, we finally find out why he set up that damn basement in the first place, which is something we still have not uncovered, or at least to a satisfying level, in the main series, or at least in the volumes that I have read thus far, and I was very disappointed in the anime because it didn't really clearly explain then either. But this volume does us a solid and finally tells us what the hell the point was. Does seem pretty extra to me, but whatever floats your boat, dude. This initial volume is nicely paced. It's a bit crime show episode with the cult investigation, and it has hints of creepy, in large part thanks to Danny with a little bit of help from Kathy. We get some solid insight into the architect of the basement and what it was for, alongside a lot of additional insight into Danny. He kind of oscillates between being completely normal and completely psychotic, and there is a reason I call him creepy Dr. Danny, okay? I'm really looking forward to seeing how the others are brought in and to hopefully get to know more about them and their past and how they came to be in the basement. And I have to say I got invested in this way faster than I was expecting to, considering my dislike for Danny in general. Kakegurui Twin, I gave this one 5 stars out of 5. This again is a prequel, and it is the prequel to Kakegurui, obviously. This one focuses on Mary. It starts from when she just joins the school. She's a scholarship student, she's new to gambling, and obviously she is not familiar with how the school works yet. We do get a little bit of a refresher on the school system, but it doesn't take too long, so I don't feel like it drags this first volume at all. It's more of a nice little reminder than an overly long explanation that bores you if you've already read the main series. I loved getting to know Mary a little bit more, getting some background on her childhood, and some more information about her family. But considering the Mary we all know from the main series and the Mary that we met in the first volume of the main series, I could not get over how naive she was in this first volume when it came to the school and gambling. Like, I could see she was being taken for a mug in the first chapter and I was completely mind blown. I was like, oh, what? This is Mary, what is going on? But I am really looking forward to seeing her become the Mary that we know and love in the main series, and to see her journey there and how it came about and how she develops into that person, or more accurately gets warped and twisted into that person by the school. Alongside some familiar old faces from the main series, we do have some new characters too, like Mary's childhood best friend Suzura. Like, I'm assuming she's new. I don't recall seeing her in the main series at all, so I'm kind of curious to know what happened to her and where she is that she's not in the main series. Throughout this entire volume, along with seeing Mary and her friend, we see Mary acclimatizing to the school, learning about how the school works, learning about gambling and how to gamble, and let's just say she's a quick learner. I have to say I felt a bit more proud and a bit more exciting and was more like, yes, whenever Mary would win, more so than I had with Yumiko in the beginning of the main series, as I kind of feel like Mary starts out in this as more of an underdog than Yumiko did, and Mary's kind of more relatable than Yumiko was, because obviously she's a normal person and not the absolute gambling fiend that Yumiko is, and she knows nothing, whereas Yumiko might not have been familiar with the school and how it worked, but she was way familiar with gambling. The contrast between Mary and Yumiko is actually pretty interesting to see as main characters. Kakegurui Twin hooked me in so damn fast, and as is usual, it had me on the edge of my damn seat when all of the gambling kicked off. Mary is obviously determined to build her way up and become a winner, but it's not all about Mary climbing up by gambling and her gambling den. There is also some treachery being plotted by a council member to destroy the student council president, which was an interesting little twist that had me super excited for the second volume, which is just as strong as this first one, has to be said. Love in Focus Volume 1, I gave this one 3 stars out of 5. This starts off quite sedately. It's all Mako arriving at the boarding house that she's going to be staying at, meeting childhood friend Ki and grouchy fellow first year Amamura. Amamura is love interest number 1, I'm assuming, and she gets off to a bit of a shaky start with him. There is a little bit of a mystery surrounding him and his dislike of his face and photos being taken of said face. Love interest number 2 is obviously childhood friend Ki, who she is so sure sees her only as a sister, and with those words I knew that he did not. I really appreciated that Amamura's secret and his reason for hating photos was actually a lot deeper than I was expecting, and the reveal wasn't dragged out. Mako, our main character, is quite bright. She always sees the good side of things. Did quite like her as an MC in this volume, it has to be said, but like I said, this volume is quite sedately paced, and we basically spend it watching her settling in at the boarding house, getting introduced to all of the characters, and then have Ki throw down the gauntlet in a huge oh snap moment right at the end of the volume. There are a couple of cliches, but it is quite an enjoyable volume. I did quite like the art, particularly when it comes to drawing the settings and the photos, but it was just really not that attention grabbing and not that memorable for a first volume. Gleipnir, I gave this one a 3 out of 5. The opening is a very definite what the hell moment, but it does succeed in catching your attention, I'll give it that. Kaguya's initial narrative is very foreboding and intriguing. It is actually all quite dark and serious, aside from the monster that he actually is. It's actually kind of hard to take that part seriously, or maybe that was just me. He's actually quite sweet and quite quiet. He's obviously scared. He doesn't understand why he's like this and why this is happening. As for Claire, our other MC, well, she is not the nicest, which is kind of a change from the usual MCs, I suppose, but I did find it quite hard to like her, I can't lie. She's quite twisted, she controls his monster form, although the two of them combined are pretty unstoppable, and I suppose they do form some kind of bond. Twisted as it may be, but she does appear to be the brains behind the operation, and he does seem to be little bit useless. There is a lot of action, there's a lot of mystery. Claire's sister for one, the girl we meet in the volume for another. This is a lot darker, a lot grittier, and a lot more violent than I was expecting, with lots of points of intrigue mixed in, but there is a lot of fan service, which I'm not really a fan of, and I'm not entirely sold on the art style for this either. Plunderer, I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5. First off, this got marked down half a star because the fan service was questionable and I was side-eyeing it, which is really the only disappointing thing about this for me. You've got Hina's counter on her thigh, Lynn having to wear a skirt for her uniform and wanting to rank up purely so she can wear trousers. I'm sure you can pick up the direction of the fan service and what it entails from that alone, so that was a little bit disappointing for me. But anyway, I was excited for this. It sounded intriguing. This is obviously an omnibus edition, so it's 2 volumes in one. The colour pages for this are intriguing and they show off the pretty art and the character designs, as you can see. The world is just as intriguing as I thought it would be from the synopsis. Basically, everyone has a counter and it goes up for a reason specific to each person. So in Nana's case, for example, it goes up every time someone compliments her food, but then goes down if anyone says it tastes bad. If you've got a higher number, you can order anyone with a lower number to do anything that you want them to do and they can't disobey. But if your number reaches 0, you are pulled into a mysterious abyss. I liked that we got all of the background and how the world works out of the way early on. I feel like it was well explained for the most part, although it did take them until volume 2 to explain what a ballot holder is and what it does properly, which was a little bit frustrating. Both volumes move quite fast and are nicely paced, characters meeting up, certain reveals happening. There's a nice amount of action and intrigue in each volume, along with some humour mixed in. I feel like this does really well at explaining the basics, but with some action and humour mixed in alongside it to keep you entertained and to stop it from kind of dragging too much and being a bit too info dumpy. As for characters, Hina's a bit naive, but she's not too irritating with it. Licht, I can't get over his creepy masks. I really can't. Would it kill him to have a normal one? He is mysterious, but he's got some good qualities to him. He won't walk away from someone who's in trouble, although his more promising qualities are offset by his creeper behaviour. Like, he'll be doing so well and then he'll just act like a complete and utter creeper, and he just needs a slap upside the head. Shockingly, I ended up quite liking Jail Murdoch, and I didn't think I would. He really reminds me of another character from a different series, but I can't quite put my finger on who. He's kind of a douchebag for the most part, but he does manage to be nice at one point, and I feel like he has a lot of room to become a nicer character. Like, I don't think he's unable to be reasoned with, and I'm really looking forward to him bonding with Licht and Hina. I did get hooked into this pretty fast. I had a lot of questions, I still do. Licht's more goofy moments were a nice surprise. I was expecting him to be a lot more serious than he actually was. Arguably one of the best things about this volume though is the ending of it, or at least, you know, technically the ending of volume 2. I was basking in the fantasy setting with all these intriguing little twists to it, and then the end of this giantly huge volume happened. The final couple of pages throw a major plot twist at you that had me like, okay, no spoilers, but I assume that this was a standard fantasy setting, so I was completely and utterly shook by the reveal. And I have questions about it. A lot of questions. Despite the questionable fan service, this is a strong series opener. It has a lot to intrigue you, and it appears to be heading in a very interesting and unexpected direction. And finally, a Witch Hat Atelier. I gave this one a 3 out of 5. I'm gonna be 100% upfront and honest with you guys and tell you that this is just not my cup of tea. It's got absolutely gorgeous colour pages, don't get me wrong. The magic system was quite interesting with how it's drawn and there's no words spoken. Things do kick off quite quickly. Of course, little idiot Coco does the thing that she's not supposed to do. After my initial interest wore off, I did find my attention wandering as I tried to make it through the rest of this volume. Things were a little bit slow. Coco frustrated me. Like, there was this big emotional scene when she made the mistake, but she evidently didn't learn from it because she keeps on running off without thinking, which is what got her into trouble in the first place, and she just frustrated me. She just frustrated me because of that. So while this does have its good points, it just wasn't for me. So that has been my latest mini manga reviews video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Let me know down below what you thought of these manga if you have read them. I will link all of my social media down below so you can come and chat to me on Twitter, and so you can check out my full-length review for each of these as well as other volumes that I don't cover in this series. For more similar content, feel free to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next video.